Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the GreenRoc Mining PLC investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab that's just situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Please just simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. These will be available via your Investor Meet Company platform and will notify you by email when these are ready for your review. Before we begin, I would like to submit the following poll, and if you'd give that your kind attention, I'm sure the company will be most grateful. And I'll now like to hand you over to CEO Kirk Adams. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kirk Adams. I'm the CEO of GreenRoc Mining. And GreenRoc is a mining company that is focused on developing mining projects in Greenland, taking them through to production. And we have, I think, two what I'll call flagship projects that we are developing right now, and that I hope to give you a sense of the excitement that we have about them. Okay, so the first slide here is a slide taken from Kalak, which is part of the resource area of our graphite project, and looking towards the island of Amitsoq. It's a phenomenal view, and on the island of Amitsoq, there was a mine, a graphite mine, 100 years ago, and Danish miners extracted approximately 60,000 tons of graphite on this island. And so there are two levels there, and we can see the exposed graphite over distances of hundreds of meters in those tunnels. So it's not a new project; it's a restart of a mining project. And then, of course, the Kalak area is recently discovered, but looks to be similar in terms of size. I just move on to the next slide, which is the disclaimer. The disclaimer really is, it effectively says I'll be making forward-looking statements during this presentation and projections, and there's no guarantee that these will eventuate. I personally believe that they will, but that's my view and my view only. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at an overview of the company itself. If we look at the graphite project, we recently issued a maiden JORC resource where we got 8.28 million tons of graphite at 19.75%. In essence, 1.63 million tons of contained graphite. And to put that in perspective, that is effectively the consumption of 1.5 million tons is the current consumption of natural graphite on a global basis. So it's a significant resource at a very high grade. We've also got a second project, just overviewing them, the Tule Black Sands project, where we already have a 19 million ton resource at 8.9% contained ilmenite, and that project is we're waiting for the results of the drilling program from this year. The assay results are due in the next month or so from a 249 drill hole program, and therefore we anticipate, I think, with a great deal of excitement, that the resource there will increase quite significantly, and I'll tell you a little bit about that as we go. Why GreenRoc? Why Greenland? Well, it's an extremely stable environment, very, very transparent. The Greenlandic people and officials are absolutely clear and straightforward and easy to deal with. So it's a great jurisdiction from that point of view, and it's located in a place that is ideal for supplying our material to both Europe and to North America. So that's important, and finally, the two flagship projects we have, both critical minerals, both in Europe and in North America. They're critical, which that means that they are, one, economically very important, but two, also at risk of supply disruption. And I would say more so in these conflict times. And finally, we've got an experienced management team, and I'll tell you a little bit about them just now. Okay. I think this is a great team. I'll start with George, the the chairman of the company, non-exec chairman. He's a great, hard-working corporate lawyer, fantastic to work with. He's very, very detailed and on the facts. He's excellent. Jim Wynn is a world-class finance director. A great deal of experience, and he's just helped us with this annual report and published that and today, and it's again a work of great quality. Mark Austin is a phenomenal geologist and project manager, and he's been driving our drilling programs and our geological exploration, and of course, that's one of the reasons we've got these great projects, and we're learning more and more about them in an extremely quick way. Lars Brunner is, his experiences in social and environmental studies, and he worked for Golders for a great deal of time, and he's also got decades of experience in Greenland itself, and so he's a phenomenal resource for us. He knows everybody. Everybody in Greenland. And finally, last but not least, Mark Rakavides is the epitome of a successful mining executive, and is phenomenally well connected in Europe, and so he's a great asset to the company. So it's a team that is built, I think, for success and built to drive these projects forward into production over the shortest possible time. So we talked a little bit about Greenland, but why is it such a good place to be? I think it's such a good place to be because it's been largely unexplored over the last 100 years or so. I mean, barring small mining operations like the Amitsoq Graphite Project, predominantly these potential deposits have not been looked at, and what that means is that they tend to be higher grade than what you would find in other jurisdictions where high grade projects close to surface have been mined out, tend to be higher grade and easy to mine, and so that creates a great opportunity, and that's one of the reasons that we're so happy to be working exclusively in Greenland. The legislation is very transparent. The Mining Resources Act was published in 2009. It's a modern resource act, and it's therefore very easy to deal with and extremely consistent. And so the regulators, are easy to deal with, very forthcoming, and we've had nothing but great relationship with them so far. And the laws are very clear. One of the things I would also point out is in this jurisdiction, you don't need a feasibility study to get a mining license. All you need is a CRISCO compliant resource statement, which is large enough to support a mining operation, and environmental impact assessments and social impact assessments and mitigations. And that's why we are driving forward towards getting those as quickly as possible, with the idea that we'll be able to get apply for our mining licenses in the next 12 months or so on both of these projects. And the second, I think, key issue is for Greenland is that we are in the graphite project. We're right in the southern tip. Our projects are right on the fjords. Those fjords stay open on a worldwide on a annual basis. There's not ice in those fjords, and what that means is that we'll be able to mine there 365 and deliver our product from there. Slightly different from the Thule Black Sands, which is in the north, but again, we are right on the coast, and therefore we're able to ship our product very easy. So logistics will be relatively simple. Let's talk a little bit about graphite as a critical mineral. It's not really had its day in the sun like lithium. But it's a chemically inert material, but with high electric and thermic conductivity. And what that means is it can be used in a large number of different different ways. And when you look at this, when you look at the pie chart here, you can see that refractories have been the largest use of this material, foundries and crucibles in the past. But this is the current state. And what we're actually seeing is that the drive for EVs and the drive for the increase in the number of EVs and the requirement for batteries, electric batteries in EVs means that the demand for graphite is going to grow in that particular area, the battery sector, extremely fast, and more so, I think, in these conflict times where we're trying to move away from fossil fuels and gas as quickly as possible. Now, if you look at the production of graphite at the present time, 60% of that material is synthetic graphite, and 40% of it is natural graphite. If you look at synthetic graphite, it's extremely carbon intensive to make. It requires a huge amount of energy, and from that perspective, it's a polluting material that is about 2 or 3 times the cost of the equivalent natural product, and therefore, there's a drive and a demand from utilizers of this product to move towards natural graphite as quickly as possible, and away from synthetic, and particularly with respect to reducing, carbon footprints, which is very much the important thing these days, is everybody, more than 100 countries have committed to being carbon neutral by 2050. So that's one of the reasons there's such a demand for natural graphite. And if you look at the natural graphite, flake is about 29% of that, amorphous 11%. Amorphous graphite is actually contradiction in terms, because it's not amorphous, it's still crystalline, but you can't see the crystals because they're so small, and it's not usable in lithium-ion batteries. And then vein graphite's just 1%. It's only mined in Sri Lanka and has specialist lubricant properties. So flake graphite is the growing area. That's where the battery graphite is going to be, and that's where we're focusing. Our material is potentially 100% of our material can be used as EV type. Material can be spheronized and then used for making anodes in the lithium-ion battery. So I've said this before, but I always like to say it. I mean, the reality is that when everybody talks and gets excited about lithium, what they don't remember is, in fact, there's 10 times more graphite in a lithium-ion battery than there is lithium. And Elon Musk said it's actually misnamed. It shouldn't be a lithium-ion battery. It should actually be a nickel graphite battery, because nickel and graphite are the key components of the battery itself. And I think that makes a extremely good point, that graphite, as in the anode of the battery, is absolutely core for all lithium-ion batteries, for all electric vehicle batteries, whatever material they're using, and therefore, it's going to be in demand, and growing demand exponentially in the next 10 to 20 years. In fact, it's predicted that the growth in demand for graphite will be 3 to 5 times in the next 10 years or so, but 25 times by 2040. And such an explosive growth in demand will require graphite companies to really get their projects into production as quickly as possible. So currently, the graphite market globally is in 2017 was just 16.4 billion. It's growing at about 8.5% a year, and they predict it'll be about 26, almost double by 2025. And this, I think, is Benchmark Minerals. So they've made this comment that unlike other critical minerals, there's still time for natural and synthetic graphite to redress what the deficits that we're predicting, but it's only as long as there's adequate funding for junior miners in the near term. And I think that that's absolutely key, that we need, and I'll answer one of the questions later on about this, but we need to drive these projects as quickly as possible up the development curve and into production, so that we can capitalize on the value for our shareholders, capitalize on the value of being in production and having this extremely high demand mineral. Okay, so finally, just talking about our product itself, we have had it tested and a whole load of metallurgical work done on it by a group called Pro Graphite. In Germany, they are graphite specialists, and what they've told us is that they can take our product from the mine. They can upgrade it using a very simple flotation process, grinding and flotation, to a 96%, 97% contained graphite concentrate, and then using an alkaline leach, they can take it to 99.97%, which is the requirement for electric vehicles and batteries. And so what we actually have is we have this material that is absolutely ideal for electric vehicles. It's the right flake size and therefore can be spheronized and turned into anodes for electric vehicles. And that really is our route to market. It's as I say, a very clear market. We know where we're going, and it's the market that is explosively growing for graphite. Spherical graphite, spheronized graphite commands about a price about 3 or 4 times the price of a concentrate flake graphite, and therefore we're looking at a product that will be sort of the $2,000 to $3,000 a ton type material. That I think is where we're currently looking, for our material. And we really need to sort of bear in mind the fact that there are dozens and dozens of gigafactories being built in Europe, 3 or 4 being built in the UK right now, and these are billion-dollar projects. But the key thing is the supply chain for those projects, and that is something that's really sort of really important. And I think many of them are still looking for their supply chain, and us being right in the close to Europe and right on the seaboard, able to ship our material directly into Europe, we're very, very well placed to be the suppliers for those gigafactories and for the anode manufacturers that supply those gigafactories in the future. And therefore, we're geographically in the right place. So let's take a look at Amitsoq itself. What we've found is when we look at graphite projects on a global basis, we're right up there in the high grade area, in the sort of 19.75%. That's our current average grade for all of our material. We do have higher grade material in the lower graphite layer on Amitsoq itself. That's about 22.6% contained graphite. So we have this high grade material, and the reason that that's so important is that the higher the grade, the lower the cost per ton of extraction, so that we don't have to process as much material to get a ton of graphite concentrate and a ton of spheronized material that can be used for producing EV batteries. And so from that perspective, we're right there at the top end of the global graphite producers, and that means that our costs for production will be lower, and of course our environmental footprint will be smaller because there'll be less gangue material, less waste material. And of course, if you've got high grade material, you can be more, I think, more assured that your project is going to be profitable, into the long term. This is a picture of the drill pads that we had for last year's program, and you can see there's also an adit on the island that goes in. There's 2 underground levels that have been developed over hundreds of meters, all on ore. The drill drill holes were phenomenally useful this year because what they did, and it was quite a surprise to us, is that as they intersected those graphite layers, what we found is as the material went down dip and got further deeper into the island, what we found was that in fact it was increasing in true width, and so typically, the expression on surface might have been 10 or 11 meters in true width, but the true width 100 meters down was typically 15 on the lower graphite layer, was typically 15 or 16 meters in true width. So that was a very pleasant surprise for us, because it means that the lens of material is getting larger and wider as it gets deeper. And the second thing that was really really good about this particular drill program was that all of the drill results on the individual layers came within 1% of the average for that particular layer. It gave us a very, very consistent result, which is what miners love to see. If we've got something that's consistent, we know that what we're going to mine is going to be consistent. Our grades are going to be consistent. Our production is going to be consistent. And so, from that perspective, it was an extremely good result. And I would just say that we've only so far we've drilled less than half of the exploration target on Amitsoq itself. And so, with a bit of arm waving, I'd like to anticipate that the drill program that we've designed for this coming year, is probably going to give us a significant increase in the resource on the Amitsoq Island. There's absolutely no reason to believe that wouldn't be the case. That's one of those forward-looking statements that I promised you at the beginning. But I truly believe this deposit on the island's going to get a lot bigger from the drilling program that we have designed and put in place for this coming year, and of course, contracted the drilling company. So from that perspective, it's looking very good, and we shouldn't overlook the fact. Remember the photograph I showed you right at the beginning, the one on the front page, the Kalak area, where we haven't done any drill holes yet, but we've done an enormous amount of channel sampling and grab sampling, and in that particular area, the expression on surface indicates that project could be two, possibly even 3 times the size of the area on Kalak, on Amitsoq, and therefore I think it gives us a great deal of positive momentum in terms of how big this graphite project could actually get. So that's, again, as I say, exciting and something to look forward to. So I think this maiden resource, it launches us into the global graphite resource space with one of the highest grade graphites in the world, and frankly into a market that is growing at a staggering pace. So let's have a quick look at the maiden resource itself. What we've got here is we've got we've got indicated and measured with a total tons of 8.28 million and an average grade of 19.75. And you'll recall that I said that the lower graphite layer is extremely consistent, and the upper graphite layer also. So we're pretty confident that grade is going to maintain, and that will give us a total tonnage just from this initial maiden resource of 1.63 million tons of contained graphite. Put that in perspective, the consumption of natural graphite on a global basis is currently about 1.5 million tons, and so what we've got a resource that is significant by global standards already, and we're anticipating that it's going to get bigger, and the grades are going to be consistent and high. Just breaking that down then into the upper graphite layer, what we've got there in the upper graphite layers is a little bit narrower, but we have an average grade of 18.65%, very high by global standards for 0.85, 0.86 million tons of graphite content. And on the lower graphite layer, where the layer is actually considerably thicker. 21.19% contained graphite for 0.77 million tons. And so, we've got this opportunity to mine these two layers separately, and that gives us a greater area to go at as we go underground when we develop this project. And as I say, there's forward-looking statements, but I truly believe we will be doing that. One of the other interesting things about the graphite is that it is across the material. It is high grade, and so what we're finding is that even using cutoffs of 13 or 15%, we're not losing very much material. So the material itself is consistently high grade, and that is excellent to mine, because you know that when you're mining it, you've got high grade, and when you're outside of the ore body, you don't have anything at all. So that's important. And then I would also just sort of point you at the map there, top right hand corner, and look at the area that we've got indicated and inferred. Those areas are the inferred areas are going to be drilled this year to make them indicated, and therefore part of a mineable resource. And the exploration target to the north of that is considerable, and so we are anticipating that that there's no reason to expect that this resource won't get bigger with time. And so it's an exciting project. So it's a substantial mineral resource. We're planning at the moment to do environmental impact, social impact assessments on this area, with the idea of applying shortly for in the next 12 to 18 months or so for a mining license. And we would then, I think, intend on expanding the area by drilling out the Kalak area to really get a resource that, just looking at our peers, would not look too different from the resource of, say, for example, Talga and their Vitanga projects. When you look at peers like that, and you see they've got their contained graphite 9.68 million tons. We're at 1.6, but our drilling program is at the moment, we've only really looked at, I think, probably less than 25% of what we know is there, and we'll be doing further drilling programs. I would I'd look at the market cap of Talga, 250 million or so, I think, at the present day, and look at our own market cap at 7 million pounds, and just say, well, if I was an investor, would I bet on this resource getting to a similar size? And as the CEO of the company, I believe it's not going to be far off the Talga resource in the longer term, and therefore, we would hope that the investors, yourselves, would look at this and say, yeah, that looks pretty good. And again, their high grade, look, that sort of 24% is their high grade at Vitanga, but their other projects, 14.9, 7.1, the grab samples and the channel samples from our Kalak area, are all coming in close to 25% contained graphite. And so we're anticipating that the grades that we get from a drilling program there will be similar as they have been on Amitsoq. So I think it's early days, but exciting, and I think we are there, and we are going to be driving towards one of the larger graphite resources in the world. So there are other Amitsoq, I think, is probably our most exciting project, but we also have other projects. I just want to tell you a little bit about the Tule Black Sands project up in the north of Greenland. Here, we're right next door to the Blue Jay Dundas project. They are taking their project towards production and looking to raise funding for it. Their resource is about total resource about 6.77 or so percent contained ilmenite. We've got a higher grade area, which we're still looking to explain geologically, but it could well be a winnowing effect. The thickness of our project material is about 2.5 or so from the from what we currently understand to the basement of that, and we've done a very significant drilling program, 249 holes this year, which is due. The results of which are due shortly, and we would anticipate, I think, without being too optimistic, we'd anticipate a fairly significant increase in the size of our JORC resource from that drilling program. Of course, we don't know yet. I haven't seen the assay results, but they are imminent, I think, in the next month or so. And so that project itself is moving forward. We have already done a baseline EIA, and we've now committed to doing the final EIA and SIA work that are required in order to attain a mining license. And I'd be very surprised if we weren't in a position within 12 to 18 months being able to apply for that mining license, and therefore finish a feasibility study with the idea of then moving this forward. So that's an exciting project, and I think again a flagship project, a project that is a company maker. Then the Melville Bay Iron Ore Project. This has got 63 million tonnes at 31.4% iron. We're looking at that and looking at what we could do. There is a significant exploration target there, and we will be looking specifically at direct shipping ore to see whether there's an opportunity to just drill blast and take that material to port and ship it directly. Again, a low cost by iron ore standards, but high value. And we like the look of that. And then there's the Inglefield Multi-Element Project, which is an IOCG project. It's showing all of the potential, I think, to being a potential IOCG type project. And again, we'll be looking at that a little bit this year as part of our pipeline for projects within the company in Greenland. So just in summary then, we've got a graphite project that I think is shaping up to be truly world class, and certainly one of the high end of those high end projects in the graphite space. We've got a titanium project. The ilmenite is titanium. Again, critical mineral, looks to be one of the highest, if not the highest, but certainly one of the highest grade ilmenite projects in the world. It's very clean. It's right on the beach, on surface, so easy to mine. And we're looking at how we can mine that using spiral classifiers and gravity to create a saleable concentrate. And in that particular space, the price of ilmenite has increased from $180 a ton 2.5 years ago. It's now around about $400 a ton. Partly driven by the fact that the demand is increasing, and some of the major suppliers have closed down. Richards Bay closed down in South Africa, and also driven to a small extent by the conflict, because Ukraine is a supplier of ilmenite as well. And so that's again a mineral that's going to be critical. It is a critical mineral, and we've got the opportunity, I think, to develop that project to meet the demand of critical minerals in the Western world. Second thing really is that both of them extremely high grade. Right at the top end of the grade scale, and that mitigates towards low cost operations and per ton, and therefore robust economics. As we said, the demand growth is phenomenal for graphite, but it's also growing about 4.4% a year for ilmenite as well. Predominantly to make titanium dioxide for white goods and so on and so forth. Greenland itself, very miningly positive. They don't like uranium, but if it's not uranious, and none of our products are, then they're very, very encouraging, and it's transparent, stable. It's a great location. We've got a management team that I think is the right team. seasoned mining professionals who are, there to drive these projects forwards. I'm a mining engineer. I've been building mines, growing mines on a global basis. I've also been advising governments about their legislation, which is why I'm so positive about Greenland's legislation. But we've got mining development and growth backgrounds and plenty of experience in Greenland, so we're the team to take these projects forward into production. As I say, we've got recent drilling programs that are giving us phenomenal results. We're very, very pleased with the results we've got so far, and plenty of drilling to be done. But also, we're working on the social and the environmental work that will allow us to move to get our mining licenses and move towards production. So that's a quick presentation, predominantly focused on our Amitsoq Graphite Project. I'll be very happy to take questions, but I'll pass it back
Kirk,
to Jake.
thank you very much indeed for your presentation today. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab that's just situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. But just while Kirk takes a few moments to review those questions submitted already, I would like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard. Kirk, if I could please ask you to open up that Q&A tab, and as you can see, we've received both a number of pre-submitted questions as well as questions that have come through during today's live meeting. Firstly, thank you to all investors for submitting their questions. And Kirk, if I could please hand back to you just to run through that Q&A tab, and where it's appropriate to do so, read out the questions and give your response, and then I'll pick up from you at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to read through them as I see them. Pre-submitted question 5: would you prefer a European, American, or British JV? Is there preference for the graphite destination? Well, I think any of those destinations would be excellent for us, for graphite, because they are, from the point of view of bulk carrier and delivering the material, we can deliver it both into Europe, into the UK, or into America fairly quickly from our project area, which is right in the southern tip of Greenland. So from that perspective, we don't have a preference on any of those three. We do think that or any of them would be extremely good destinations for our product, and of course that'll be, I think, to a certain extent, driven by can we look at having conversations with potential off-takers for this material, with the idea that they could help with the debt funding when we get to the stage where we've got a feasibility study and we detailed all of the costs of developing this project. And so we'll be talking to them and asking if they want to have an offtake agreement, then part of the quid pro quo would be that we would like some of the debt funded from them for the development of these projects, and that's very typical for mining projects. Question 4: after the excellent maiden resource at Amitsoq, what would you personally value the graphite project at Amitsoq and Kallak? Oh, I do like a good question where I can arm wave and say what I think the value is. Well, I did talk about this a little bit. I mean, our current market cap is about £7 million, and if you look at I like to look at the top end of the peers, and so if you look at somewhere like Talga Resources, which is 10 times or so the size in 5 times the size in terms of resource, and way up the development curve in comparison with us. But I'd like to think that we, in the next couple of years, will define enough graphite to be not far off their resource statement, and probably similar grades. And so from that perspective, I'd like to think that our valuation, whilst small at the moment, has a massive amount of upside, because they are, dare I say it, sort of 25 times or so valued more than us at the present time, and that's because they are further up the development curve. But I don't see why we couldn't look like them, and we are, as I say, focused on driving forward towards production as quickly as possible. So I think the upside potential is just massive just from the graphite. And I could wax lyrical, I think, about ilmenite as well, and no doubt in another presentation I will. But then again, huge potential, for that project to be very, very value enhancing as well. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what I think the project's worth. I'm a shareholder, and I will, as and when I can, at the moment, because I'm still in the close period. As and when I can, I will be topping up my shareholding as we move forward, because I do think this is just a phenomenal project and undervalued. Okay, question 3. Pre-submitted question: when and how are you going to apply for mining permit, knowing that Greenland's government has its environmental concerns? Which authorities are you in contact with in this regard, and have these authorities made any verbal and or written commitments or denials to GreenRoc? Well, they've certainly not made any denials. They've been we're talking to the to the MLSA. They are extremely encouraging of what we're doing. We have had face-to-face meetings with them, and we continue to have meetings with them, and we will be submitting, the reports and the requests on what we're going to be doing this coming summer. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be doing that and requesting, permission to move forward. They are environmentally very, very sensitive, and that's a good thing. And we're a very environmentally sensitive company ourselves, and we encourage that, and we think it's the right thing to do. Greenland is against uranium, very against uranium mining, but as long as you are a good environmental citizen, and I think we are, they will encourage you, and they'll go out of their way to help you. So from that perspective, I think we're on the right track. We certainly got a very good relationship with the local community. I've taken the CEO of the local community to site, shown her around, told her what we're going to be doing, and then later I made presentations to the officials of the community itself, and they've been nothing but supportive of us. And of course, they want to know how many jobs and so on and so forth, quite rightly so. And then the first part of this question was, what are you doing in terms of applying for mining permits? The requirement is that we need a JORC resource that would sustain mining. We will, I believe, have that after this drilling season that we currently have for the Amitsoq and Amitsoq project. We'll have a resource that would sustain a mining operation over 10 or 15 years at, say, about 250,000 tons throughput on an annual basis. So once we're convinced of that, and the JORC resource is signed off by the competent person, we are doing the work in for environmental and social impact assessments. We're planning to do that, baseline studies and so on and so forth. And once those are in place, I would say within 12 to 18 months or so, we will be applying for a mining license for this particular area, because we're able to do so. And I think that's really what we're looking at. I think we're a little bit further ahead in Thule Black Sands. We're similarly doing environmental and social work up there, and those are the critical path areas. And of course, awaiting the extension to our resource, which I think, as I say, will be in the next month or so up there, which would definitely, I believe, give us a resource of a size that would enable us to do feasibility studies. So again, 12 to 18 months, we'll be looking, I think, up there to apply for mining permits. The key driver on that, the critical path, is the environmental and the social impact work, and I'm very, very focused on getting that done as quickly as possible. Let me just scroll down here. How much money has the company raised at IPO? £5.1 million. How much was given to Alba? Well, nothing was given to Alba, but we did pay them for the work that they had done, the drilling programs on Amitsoq and up at Thule Black Sands, and that was just a straight cost that we paid them for the work that they'd done, so that we get the benefit of that work when we were listed on the 28th of September last year. So effectively, we were paying them, subcontracting them to do the drilling work and the work that's been done. How much to date on have we spent? Well, you can take a good look at our reports. We do have money in the bank. We have enough money in the bank to see us through for the next 12 months or so. What I would say, and I need to be really straightforward about this, is that the value of these projects is moving them quickly up the development curve as quickly as we possibly can. And if I see the opportunity to speed up the process, I will definitely be looking to do that. And that may require more money, but at the moment we have no plans for raising more money. We have enough money to take us through for the next 12 months or so. But as I say, and again, I reiterate, if there is an opportunity to fast track, move things forward more quickly, I would definitely do that, because it is in the shareholders' interest to do so. We want to spend money on value enhancing projects. Question 1: does GreenRoc have the funds to monetize Amitsoq without needing a rights issue? If so, how long before the start of production? Well, if you want to develop a mining project, I'm going to wave my arms here. I've built several mines over my life, rebuilt several of them as well. I'm guessing what the capital cost of development here, but it's probably between 60 and 100 million dollars, and we only raised £5 million in the raise, and of course we're using that for thing. So we are going to have to go out when we look to move one of these projects into development and raise considerable equity to do so, and also considerable debt as well. I mean, we'll be looking to do bankable feasibility studies and then raise the money to take these projects into production. I mean, in many ways, and as a development mining company, we're always standing on a burning deck. And we're using that money to create value, but we're always going to have to, until the time we get into production, we're always going to have to come back to the market at some stage to do value enhancing investments into the projects themselves. So yes, we will need money. And if you look at Tule Black Sands, we will need a considerable funding again also to get that into production. But we'll do our level best to use the debt market and cheap funding in order to take the projects into production when we raise the money. Do you plan to be available for purchase in Canada anytime soon? John H says. We're not intending to list on Vancouver or Toronto anytime soon. But John, please feel free to come to the AIM market, which is a fantastic market to be in, and to buy some of our shares there. And we'll love to have you as a shareholder. Alistair B: how is the position in how is the position of the Amitsoq deposit on an island likely to impact logistics and the ability to process material if you intend to do so? Well, we definitely are intent on doing processing of the material. We'll be doing some flotation. We'll be using the gang material, the waste material from the flotation, probably in a fill mechanism. So we'll be putting as much of it back underground as we can to support the material. There'll be a requirement for a tailings dam, and you're quite right to point out that is not possible on the geography of the island that you see in front of you. And so what we'll be doing is we'll be taking the high-grade ore material across the fjord. That distance there is about 2 kilometers to the Kalak side, where there are a number of areas where a processing plant could be located, and also tailings dams, small tailings dams, where we need it. And so from that perspective, as I say, we're looking at that. We're looking at where we would put the processing plant. We're looking at where we put tailings impoundments, and so on and so forth, with the idea that we'll be building a relatively small processing plant. My initial thinking is about 200 to 250,000 tons a year throughput for about 40,000 tons of concentrate, and then that would be then further processed to make a spheronized graphite for for anodes. Whether the whether the 97% concentrates processed in Greenland or taken to Europe or to North America for further processing is still an open question, but we're certainly looking at it. Okay. Matthew R says, thanks for the presentation. What do you view the greatest risk to the business over the next 12 months? Flippantly, an invasion from Russia. But that's certainly, into Europe could cause a considerable problem. But what is the greatest risk? I mean, the greatest risk is always with a junior mining company. I think is we will need to be able to fund ourselves to move these things forward and to move them forward as quickly as possible. Over the next 12 months, we don't need the money, so that's not a risk. But I'd hate to get to the end of 12 months and the market to be in a bad position and us, struggling to raise money for the next phases. So that's probably my biggest concern is the market it turns against us. I actually think the market is going to do quite the opposite, and that the demand for minerals is going to grow exponentially, certainly in graphite space, and therefore, because it takes so long to get a mining operation up and running from the initial discovery into production, because it's a time-consuming thing to do, that our biggest risk, I think, is we won't be able to supply the market with the material they need. Okay, Christopher P says, hello, please can you explain your approach to releasing RNSs? Well, we have to, if there's any material information that is price sensitive that we have to release that information as expeditiously as possible, therefore, as soon as we've got anything that's price sensitive, we will release an RNS on it, that's just the approach that is required by our nominated advisor and by the AIM resources. So that's what we do. And when we've got something that's important and price sensitive, we'll let you know. Daniel S says, is there any chance of an asset sale of one of the assets at this stage of development? Have there been any approaches? Well, look, I'm a mine builder, Daniel, and I want to build mines here. I believe we've got the executive team to do that. We will be building a management team and a team in the company that will enable us to do it over the next 2 or 3 years. I'm passionately I've got a very strong desire to take these projects, these world-class projects, up the value curve and into production. But if somebody were to approach us and pay fair value or a reasonable value for one of those projects, I would do what's in the best interest of the shareholders, which is that I would take a deal if it's on the table. But I'm not intending to do so. We're certainly not looking around for that. But if somebody approached us and said, hey, we love your graphite project, we love your Two-Lace Black Sands project, will you come to an agreement with us for the right price? The answer is yes. Okay, and Blue D, how will you secure resources for the projects? It's a really good question. I've been in mining for 40 years. I went underground the first time in 1980, and I've been working in the industry for most of that time. So there's a fairly standard way for raising money for projects like this. I have raised with teams in the past considerable funding for other projects, which we've taken and developed into production. Typically, you're looking at an equity raise for about 30 to 40% of the capital cost of taking a project in production, and about 60% or so as debt funding from an off-taker or a bank to develop the projects, and that's why you need bankable feasibility study. So how will we secure it? We'll secure it by by talking to people, by getting bankable feasibility studies in place, and talking to the people who fund these projects. And I'm confident that we will raise the money for the development. Okay, I think I've. Oh, sorry, I was meaning people resources. Okay, fair enough. That's a very good question, and the people of Greenland, the Greenlandic people, are there have been underground mines in the past, talking specifically about Amitsoq, but they were working a few decades ago. There isn't really underground mining experience in Greenland, but what we would be doing is bringing in expertise from areas where there is underground mining experience. And I've been an underground miner myself for 10 years, so I've got quite a bit of experience. But we'll be bringing in the expertise to help develop these mines, but also to transfer the skills to the local people, so that that we can effectively bring the local population, local society into the project as far as we humanly possibly can. And I've had conversations, as I say, with the CEO of the of the area. And we've said, look, we're not going to commit to a to a percentage number of Greenlandic people in the company, but what we will commit to is to if we've got enough interest, we will commit to transferring skills and capabilities to Greenlandic people, so they can become the long-term workforce on the projects themselves. Does that answer your question, Blue D?
Kirk, I think so. And thank you very much indeed for taking the time to answer all of those questions that have come through from investors today. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if there are any further questions submitted today, we will make them available to the company immediately after the presentation has ended. And these will be available via your Investor Meet company dashboard. Kirk, perhaps before redirecting investors to provide you with their feedback, which I know is particularly important to yourself and the company, could I please ask you for a few closing comments to wrap up with? Thank you.
Yes, of course. Let me just have a sort of quick think about why I think GreenRoc is such a great company. I think the first reason is that we've got two top tier flagship projects with very high grades by world standards. They're easy to mine. The Thule Black Sands is on surface. The Graphite Project outcrops on surface, so they're easy to mine, and we're in an open and transparent jurisdiction. So that's the first one, is the top tier projects in a great jurisdiction. And the second thing I'd say is we've got excellent blue sky potential. If you look at the graphite, more than 50% of the area on Amitsoq, the target area, is yet to be drilled, and yet we've already got 8.28 million tons, or 1.63 million tons of contained graphite. I would anticipate that's going to expand. And then Kallak itself, the exposures on surface in Kallak are bigger than those in Amitsoq. And so from that perspective, we've got a huge amount of blue sky just in the Amitsoq project. If you look at the Thule Black Sands project, we've only drilled the southern portion of the beach there. We've got the central area and the northern area yet to drill out. I mean, there's been drilling done there, but only to a meter. We'll be doing additional drilling there in the future. And so that resource is one, I mean, on the cusp of a major expansion, but likely to be, bigger, considerably bigger in the future. So we've got a huge blue sky potential. And then the third thing is that we've got a team that is very focused. If you've got a mining engineer who's a mine builder, myself, as a CEO, we're charging towards development as fast as we can. And I will be applying for mining licenses as soon as I possibly can in the next 12 to 18 months. And so, I would say, those are the things that summarize the company and the company ethos and where we're going with this.
Kirk, that is great. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to update investors today. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you'll now be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of GreenRoc Mining PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation. That now concludes today's session, and good afternoon to you all.
Thanks, Jake.